First off, thank you for buying a Wilmot grinder, a little buddy grinder. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it might take to tune your grinder so that it runs right. She can wait. We're going to talk about what you might need to do to tune it. When you put the whole thing together, sometimes things don't quite line up and everything. It's easy to fix, easy to adjust. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. First off, let's talk about the proper way the thing should track. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit to this little guy. Okay. Okay. When I turn the grinder on, I'm going to adjust the belt so it's in the middle of the tracking wheel. And it's in the middle right there. I'm going to turn it off now, okay? Now, when it's in the middle of the tracking wheel, it should also be in the middle of your flat platen, which it is, and it should also then consequently be in the middle of your drive wheel. If it's not in the middle of the drive wheel, loosen your drive wheel, move it in or out. Let's adjust it so it's right. If it's not centered on this flat plate, when it's centered on here, you can add or subtract a washer, either on the tracking wheel or on this. The belt, when centered on the tracking wheel, needs to be centered on everything. And it's okay to add a washer or take it away. I've even taken these washers and sanded them down a little thinner. Whatever it takes to get everything centered. This one's right. Let's look at it again. I should be able to adjust this so it's a 1/4 inch to the right and it stay there, and a 1/4 inch to the left and it stay there. Okay? I'm going to put it back in the center. Let's talk about why yours may or may not be doing that. The biggest problem people have is this arm right here. This arm that holds the tracking wheel is not pointing straight ahead. And that happens for one reason. You see these uprights? Well, you can see that. Yes. These uprights right here, there's two of them. Sometimes people will put this grinder together and they'll bolt it tight before they put the bolt through here, lining these two up. If you bolt this together and one's leaning backwards and this one over here, this far side one's leaning forwards, well then you're going to twist this main bar and it's going to be pointed this direction, which is going to make the belt favor that direction. So this is what I want you to do if you have any problems with tracking. I want you to loosen these 3 bolts on both sides. Just loosen them. When you do that, with this bolt going through here and tightened, it's going to align them. And it's going to take any stress out of trying to make this skew right or left. So loosen these 3 bolts, loosen these 3 bolts with a wrench on the inside, and then just retighten. If you do that, they'll self-align, because if they're out of alignment, they're going to self-align because of the bolt going through here. They're going to go where they want to be, and they'll no longer be stressed trying to point this right or left. So that's the first thing I want you to do if it's not tracking correctly. Loosen 3 bolts on each side. All you have to do is loosen a turn. You'll know. And everything will self-align, retighten back up. And the grinder probably is going to track correctly. If it doesn't, we can do another thing I'm going to show you. So this grinder right here, I'm going to turn it on again. This grinder right here is tracking wheel. It's like the rudder on a ship. If for some reason this thing is bolted onto this assembly right here and it's pointed this direction or towards my right shoulder, the belt's going to favor being off to the right. Okay? If that happens, know that your tracking wheel is pointing this direction, not straight ahead, pointing this direction. If your belt favors wanting to go into the body of the grinder, that means your tracking wheel is not pointing straight ahead, it's favoring this direction or going towards my left shoulder as I stand in front of it. So fixing a tracking issue is just a matter of diagnosing what the problem is. Now, this piece right here that the tracking wheel is attached to is the tracking wheel backing plate. This thing can move a slight amount if you loosen these 2 bolts. It will twist. So what I do whenever I get a grinder not tracking correctly, I'll loosen this and I'll grab the tracking wheel and I'll loosen, and I'll twist it one direction or the other to compensate for the direction it's going. If it's going off to the right, if the belt's leaning to the right, I know I want to grab this tracking wheel and twist it towards my left shoulder. Consequently, if the belt is favoring being on the inside of the grinder, I know this tracking wheel needs to be more towards my right shoulder. Because again, you have to point it the direction you want it to go. this assembly, I make it very tight so that it can't be moved that much. Generally, when I put this together, you always get your grinder with this part, this part, this part all assembled. And what I always do is push it in all the way. Push it in completely flush before I tighten. If you paint your grinder, it's possible that you put it together and you did it with leaning slightly to the right or left. So I want you to push it in, loosen the bolts, push it in as hard as you can, and then tighten. And hopefully that'll clear things up. And if not, you know you need to twist it one direction or the other, loosen the bolts and put some twist on it, okay? And then tighten it up. I make it pretty tight. It's possible you're not going to be able to twist enough to take some screw out if you need to put some screw in. So it is okay to file on this area and this area so you can get it to move a little more. Sometimes you may even have to open the holes up a little bit bigger with the next size up drill bit so that it can twist a little bit. But that's tracking in a nutshell. If you know what your grinder's doing, well, now you know what you need to do to compensate or fix that issue. Another big issue people have is they don't pull the flat platen out far enough to tension the spring. You can see there's 3 fingers right there. Hopefully you can see that. There's 3 fingers of compression we can do. You want to make sure it's compressed. If I just were to tighten this up right now, this grinder is not going to track properly. Okay, look at that, ran right off the grinder. Why? There wasn't enough tension on the belt. There has to be tension on the belt in order for this thing to grind properly. So watch this. I'm going to put the belt back and I'm going to compress the shock and I'm going to pull the flat platen out, and now I only have 2 fingers, so I know it's compressed slightly. I'm going to turn the grinder on. It's going to track like a laser beam, okay? Very, very important on any grinder that you have proper belt tension. Remember, no belt tension equals to bad tracking. Look, now it's towing to the inside. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that doesn't understand how grinders work. Yeah, not near enough belt tension. So make sure there's proper belt tension. Okay? Know what your symptoms are. Know if your tracking wheel is skewed a little right or a little left. Remember, this is a rudder on a ship. If it's pointing that way, your belt wants to go that way. If it's pointing this way, your belt wants to go this way. That's the little buddy in a nutshell. If you ever had any questions, shoot me an email. And thank you so much for buying a Little Buddy grinder, and have a great day.